Today on Topscape, we're covering two horrifying true stories you won't forget. If you enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more true stories like this in the future. This happened to me and my girlfriend. I was dating back in the summer of 2014. This all took place in South Carolina, and my girlfriend and I wanted to take a camping trip. We initially tried to go to a place 45 miles from our hometown, but they were going to charge us double what we thought we were going to pay for. We decided to head back, and it just occurred to me there's a spot in very close to where we live. Now, I will say it's more boondocking and off-grid. We didn't have to pay for anything, just parked the car and we got out. This place is quite gorgeous. There's a historic bridge and trail, also some of the oldest railroad tracks in the South. We got there before sunset, so we had plenty of time to pitch the tent and set everything up. There were a few cars when we arrived, but they were most likely hikers and would be gone by nightfall. The only thing that made us uncomfortable was a busted up and rusted old white van with no license plate. We both pointed that out, thinking it was weird, but we shrugged it off and started walking to a good place to set camp up. After several hours around 3 a.m. following some quality time spent with her and taking in all the nature and then going to sleep, we started to hear this obscure singing and walking around our tent. Anytime you hear commotion that early in the morning, nothing good can happen out of it. I peered my head out the tent to see what was going on. I didn't see anything or anyone, but nonetheless I didn't want to stay in that area when we both were freaked out. Just because I couldn't see it doesn't mean it's not there. I barely did a decent walk around our tent. As we were quietly gathering our belongings, we swore we heard the singing get louder. I recall words in this song he was singing had "Now won't you come out," followed by this raspy laughing. Once we finally packed the tent, that was when crunching on the leaves and his humming is what we heard, so we knew this guy was close by. We booked in. I grabbed a hand and threw the tent and folding chairs on my back. We made sure to run the opposite way from where all his noise was coming from. Luckily, we set camp up fairly close to the parking lot because I could see lights through the trees. As we ran and scurried away from whoever was chasing us, we noticed the lights from the parking lot wasn't just the street lights, but also, to our horror, it was that old, rusty white van we saw at the beginning. We hurried uphill, just hoping this guy was alone. His van was right in front of mine. If he had an accomplice, that would be another person to deal with. As we reached the lot, we got into the bright streetlights. I noticed my girlfriend's hand make a slight twitch and her pace slowed down from that. I could tell she was turning her head to take a look at our attacker. I heard her gasp loudly. No, don't look, we're almost there. She focused back and we continued running in unison. This guy was getting closer as I can hear the noise of the gravel intensify. I heard his wheezing and him barking, "Don't you think you'll get away?" As we just made it past the van, we split and I handed her the keys so she could unlock and start the car, and I can throw all the gear in the trunk and we can make it out of this place. As I frantically laid the camping gear in the back seat and head to the driver's side, that was when my body faced forward for the first time in a while. Every noise this guy was making was close and amplified now. With the car running, I kept my head down to put it in reverse, but curiosity got the better of me. In the brightness of my headlights, this man was a behemoth with a stern, wrinkled face with red patchy hair, a goatee that had dirt, crud smeared over it. His eyes were fixated on us like a scope magnifying on two 10-point bucks. He was wanting to kill. "Get back here," he barked, waving a baseball bat back and forth. I shook my head, and with that I swerved out, and we were on the way out with our hearts racing. In the rearview mirror, we saw the man slam the bat in frustration. A narrow escape. We drove to Waffle House and spent the rest of the early morning until the sunrise. About 2 months ago, I cannot recall the actual date, I was lying in bed late at night watching a soccer game, drifting in and out of a sleep. I usually just use the background noise to help me fall asleep, as I would say I am a very nocturnal person. I feel like I was on the edge between being awake and asleep when I heard an urgent pounding on the front door. The way a house is shaped, my bedroom is approximately 10 meters from the front door and backs onto the front courtyard. The knock startled me at first, as I was unsure if it was just in my head, so I literally laid still in silence to see if I heard anything else. I knew it couldn't be my roommate, as she was out of town for the week visiting family and attending a wedding. Shortly after, there was a second knock just as hard, but no one yelled out or said anything. I'd like to say that I'm not easily scared and enjoy watching horror movies in my free time, but I found myself frozen in place, not able to move. No further knocks came, but I was too frightened to fall back asleep and didn't end up resting until around 4 a.m. I called my roommate in the morning asking her if she knew anyone that could have come to our door in the night, but she was as confused as I was. A week passed by and I didn't really think much of it anymore. I sort of came to the conclusion that it was maybe someone drunk that mistaken our house as theirs, as it was Saturday night when it happened. I work in a large chain grocery store doing night stacking a few days a week with my shifts ending between 2 and 4 a.m. usually. It was the next Saturday and I was approaching the end of my shift when my roommate texted me saying someone was knocking on the front door again. Even though I wasn't there, I was struck with the same kind of fear I'd experienced the week prior. She reassured me that the doors were all locked, but was scared knowing the same thing happened to me the week prior. She kept in touch with me until my shift was over and told me that there was no second knock. When I arrived home, the front yard seemed untouched and there was no one out walking the street. I must reinstate it is a very quiet neighborhood with many elderly couple living on our street. In the morning, my roommate still seemed a bit shook up, so I put in an anonymous tip with the Crime Stopper service, but they never got back to me. Nothing else happened for the following month and a half. We were both going on with our lives like it never happened, but I stopped working Saturday nights as this was the only similarity between the two occurrences. That was until the most recent Saturday. I was up late in the living room watching some old Black Mirror episodes as the new season was about to come out. It was around 1, I had plans to go to bed after the episode I was watching. For context, the lounge room is practically right next to the front door with the path to the door going past a large window. As I was watching, I saw the outside motion sensor light turn on from the bottom of the windowsill under the blind. I froze. Up until this point, I had completely forgotten about the knocking and I was stuck in fear. A short moment later, bang, 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 bang. At first, I was just going to sit there and wait for them to go, but after a second loud knock, I decided to look through the peephole quietly to see if it was someone familiar. My roommate had a few failed relationships that didn't end on good terms, so I assumed maybe, just maybe, it could be one of them. It wasn't. It was a woman. She was staring at the front door extremely still. It was like she was frozen, her eyes staring straight ahead with little to no expression. It felt like she could see me through the eye hole, just staring into my soul. I couldn't move. She stood there for another 2 or so minutes until she looked to the side and ran off. I called the cops and I explained on the phone what had happened, and they sent someone out shortly later. They checked the cars parked on the street but came up empty-handed as there was no damage and told me to call back if anything happened again. The thing that I couldn't get out of my head was the way she stood there emotionless, staring straight ahead, and the way she ran off. She looked to be in her mid-30s, maybe 40, but was wearing a small nightdress and no shoes. Not only was this out of the ordinary, but it was freezing outside. Since then, I have ordered one of those doorbell cameras in case she does come back, but to be completely honest, I flinch whenever someone knocks on that door now. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more horrifying stories like these, as well as our other content where we cover fascinating topics like science, history, trivia, astronomy, and so much more.